Hey friends in beauty, if you're a professional makeup artist or beauty pro who is tired of juggling multiple tools to run your business, I got great news for you. Beauty Pro Funnels is here to simplify your life and take your business to the next level. Unlike other platforms like Wix, Squarespace, or Acuity, Beauty Pro Funnels was created by a makeup artist for makeup artists. This is the world's first all-in-one software that helps you book clients, sell your products, and even launch courses all in one place. No need for separate subscriptions that drain your wallet or tools that don't speak your language as a beauty pro. With Beauty Pro Funnels, you're not just getting another booking tool. You're unlocking the ability to create multiple revenue streams, so whether you're behind the chair or not, you're making money. Imagine accepting bookings, selling your beauty products, and offering courses all without the stress of managing separate systems. That could be a big headache. Let me break it down to you one more time. Your website, build it on Beauty Pro Funnels. Your portfolio, build it on Beauty Pro Funnels. Your booking site, build it on Beauty Pro Funnels. And your e-commerce site, host it in Beauty Pro Funnels. Want to offer beauty courses or digital products? You can sell them inside of Beauty Pro Funnels, and you'll be able to send invoices, digital contracts, newsletters, and do all of your marketing directly from your Beauty Pro Funnels account. It's mind-blowing. Listen, you're going to save hundreds of dollars every single month by replacing over 10 platforms when you make the switch to Beauty Pro Funnels like Wix, Squarespace, Acuity, WordPress, Vagaro, Honeybooks, 17 Hats, Dubsado, MailChimp, Klaviyo, Kajabi, DocuSign, even Shopify. It's crazy. I know you got at least one of those. And here's the best part. Tayana and her team spent over a year building plug-and-play templates into your account for pretty much everything, so you never have to start from scratch at all. So all of your appointment confirmations, reminders, and payment reminders and stuff like that for your clients, they have already been written out for you. You can even gather reviews and referrals all on autopilot. You'll free up so many hours of time each week so you can focus on what you love, your artistry. Plus, with their mobile app, you can manage your entire business from the palm of your hand. Send invoices, schedule appointments, and even take payments on the go. I believe in Beauty Pro Funnels so much that I recently moved the Friends of Beauty site to Beauty Pro Funnels, and I am loving it. It's a game changer because it's not just a platform. I swear it is like having your personal business assistant designed specifically for makeup artists and beauty pros like you. So here's the deal. If you want to see what all the hype is about, visit getbeautyprofunnels.com/friends to get a personalized tour and see how Beauty Pro Funnels can transform your business today. That's getbeautyprofunnels.com/friends because you deserve the best tool for your beauty business.
I have such a lifelong passion for film and for movies. It's literally been my aspirational goal since I was 5 years old.
Wow. Now you're leading the hair department for Amazon Prime's Overcompensating. How did you come about being the department head on this series?
Yeah, this was, I had received the script for the pilot. The producers reached out and they sent me episode 1. I read this script and the opening line in the top of the script said, Benny wakes up in the morning to Britney Spears' Lucky playing in the background. And I immediately understood the assignment of this show. Hair was a big part of Carmen and her story arc, and that was all laid out right from the top. Okay. So, and I said, well, this is the show that I want. These are the challenges that I want. And if the first scene in the show is a hair gag with where she's burning her hair off, I said, I want to meet that challenge.
Yeah.
You know, I want to figure out the logistics of how we're going to execute that on camera.
Welcome to the Friends in Beauty podcast, a safe space for ambitious beauty industry creatives to have real talk, get authentic answers, and practical tools to grow their businesses. Join me every week as me and my special guest reveal the keys to longevity and success in the beauty industry, from the ups and downs of their journey to the nitty-gritty of their struggles and triumphs. We're spilling the tea on it all, and most importantly, having fun while doing it. You ready?
Hey, what's up? It's your best friend in beauty here, Aquia Robinson. Welcome back to another episode of the Friends in Beauty podcast. I am so happy to have you here, and I hope you're listening to this episode in high spirits and in good health. Now, in today's episode, we had the pleasure of having Blake Arsenault in the Friends of Beauty guest chair. Blake is the visionary hair department head behind the new Amazon Prime series, Overcompensating, which premiered on May 15th. Known for turning hairstyles into a form of storytelling, Blake doesn't just style hair, he sculpts identity, emotion, and growth. From crafting Carmen's powerful curly hair transformation to subtly mirroring Benny's emotional journey through understated grooming, Blake's work helps drive the show's core themes of identity, self acceptance, and the pressure to fit in, which we can all relate to. His ability to use hair as a narrative speaks volumes, and today we're diving into how he brings characters to life, strand by strand. Welcome to the Friends of Beauty podcast, Blake.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. I'm humbled to be here. Thank you. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
I'm glad that you liked it. I think I could do a
Yeah,
little.
yes, please do.
Yes, I love your energy. I'm so excited to have you here and learn more about you and your journey in the beauty industry. But before we start yapping away, because I'm excited, we're going to start off with some icebreakers so we can get to know you a little bit outside of what you do professionally.
All
So,
right, let's do it.
yeah. So, first one, just give us three random facts about you.
Okay, three random facts. I am a Trekkie, live long and prosper. I love cats. They're my life. I have one, not several, but I'm working on it.
Okay.
I'm getting a, and one more. I am an avid outdoors lover. I love paddleboarding, I love kayaking, and I love being on the water. It's my second home. I was born and raised on the ocean. I live in the city now, but we're on the lake, so it's I get out as much as I possibly can.
Also, we have a
Those are
couple of
three.
things in common for sure. I love being outdoors. I haven't traveled. I mean, I haven't tried like kayaking and stuff. I love like hiking and the beach and just sitting by the water. I love stuff like that. And I also
Same.
have one cat.
Oh, amazing. And
I
what's his
would,
name? What's their
her
name?
name is Cash with a K.
Oh, Cav. Mine is Coven with a C.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, so she's driving me a little crazy right now. I'm letting her
Oh,
grow up and explore and I guess meet her cat milestones. I have no idea, but she's doing some interesting things lately. I'm just letting her do her thing.
how old is she?
She's 4.
Oh, mine is just turned 2, and she is a nightmare demon spawned from hell that I love so much and wouldn't have any other way.
Right. That's how I feel. Like she makes me upset and then I still cuddle with her. I'm like she didn't do
That's
anything.
that's right. They really are our children.
Yes, they are. Oh my gosh. Okay, so what do people always tell you that you're good at aside from what you do professionally?
I always have like I know the most random things about the most random things, and I can always contribute to a conversation because I know some thing that's gonna I can chime in with. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know, but that's what people always point that out about me. I always have a little bit of facts about something. And that's probably my ADHD brain just wanting to absorb all of the information all the time. So it's like I don't necessarily have a vast knowledge of random things, but little bits and pieces.
I like
So
that. I
yeah.
like that though. You could contribute to any conversation. I mean, I know I have a random thought process sometimes too. Like I was watching the sunset the other day and I was like, I should Google why sometimes the sunset's in purple and those pinks and not orange. Like, that's how you end up knowing a little
And now
bit
you
about a
know.
lot. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. I'm the same way.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you come to a conclusion as to why?
No, I haven't
No,
Googled it. I
right,
thought about
right,
it though. I was like,
right.
the sunset was just so beautiful. And I'm like, well, why is it purple and pink this time? Like, I'm gonna Google it though. I'm gonna find out.
Oh, I look forward to that answer.
I'll slide in your DM and tell you.
Okay, perfect. I'll be standing by.
Yeah. When is the last time that you did something for the first time? Have you had any new experiences lately?
Outside of work,
Mm-hmm.
because let me tell you, every day at work is a new experience.
Right?
Um,
On set.
you know, right? Yeah. I actually there was a few. This year has been so far a journey of new experiences and doing new things. I'm trying to do things that take me out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's, I'm sometimes not the most physically active person. So I'm trying to incorporate a lot of that in my schedule into my life. But it's the idea of saying yes to literally everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this motto of say yes now and figure it out later. And
Mm-hmm.
so anytime any opportunities come by that might be outside of my comfort zone, whether it's, small things, or big life-changing things,
Yeah.
I'm just and spending my time saying yes to all of it,
Mm-hmm.
um, because it's worked in the past. So, I mean, specifically, I can't land on anything, but I think my motto now is to say yes, and
Mm-hmm.
to just do it and throw myself in head first.
Yeah.
And it's opens a lot of doorways, and it's created a lot of positive things so far.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep on that path.
I
But
like
that's
that.
kind of my journey at the moment. Yeah.
Also, are you doing a lot of things scared?
I
You're saying
have.
yes.
Yeah, yes. And it's juggling. My work life balance is always a juggle. As you can see, I'm actually at work right now in
Mm.
the hair trailer on my next show. Um, and a lot before, this industry consumes a lot of our social lives, and it takes up a lot of our time, and finding a way to juggle and balance it was always a mission for me. Like, oh my God, how do I juggle this? How do I balance this? But I think right now what I'm really learning is that I don't need to. I can
Mm-hmm.
also just let life unfold.
Yeah.
And it's also, when I say yes to things, that can pile a lot of things onto your plate. So i'm I'm learning to say no, which is a way of saying yes to myself,
Mm-hmm.
and not feeling that pressure of having to fit every single thing in life along with this crazy industry we call film that I also work in.
Right.
So that's kind of been my main focus, is to find a way to. I don't need to juggle things. I can just let life unfold too, and being in control of every single waking moment of every single aspect of my life isn't necessarily the good thing either. So
Yeah.
finding that way to just let things happen and unfold, it has
Mm.
also been a really important journey for me this year.
Yeah,
And
for
that's kind
sure.
of yeah.
I had to learn how to surrender. I mean, one of my friends told me that concept maybe like during the pandemic, and I was like, girl, what are you talking about? I have to be in control. Like, I
Yeah.
just cannot. But I have learned how to just like let things go and just let it be how it's going to be.
I think that's the best lesson I've learned. And I think every day I'm learning that lessons too. And yeah, and I mean, I feel like, we're artists, both of
Mm-hmm.
us, and art, we have to control our art, and that seeps into every aspect of our lives, so there's a lot of yeah, it's a window to look through for sure. I'm
Yeah.
really trying to find that ability to just release things, let things happen, let
Yeah.
things slide, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I
and
get
and
it.
I think it's made a lot of positive change.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay. Let's see. What is a current mini win or like a milestone that's leading up to a bigger goal that you've accomplished so far in 2025?
I said that this year I wanted to do, well, it's so much of my work life revolves around work, but I wanted to have, I said that I'm going to line up the way that I want my career to go. And speaking of letting go of control, but saying that I actually want this, and this, and this,
Hmm.
and watching that unfold, because I'm speaking that out, and my eyes are tuned to it. So every year this year, I've gotten the shows that I wanted. I've gotten to work with the people that I've wanted.
Hmm.
Even in my personal life, it's been, I spend a lot of time at home. I love my home. So I'm always adding little bits to make my home environment more me, more personal, more caters to more of the things I love,
Yeah.
and letting go of certain things to just let those things happen. So it's like those little micro things that I just thought I would like to do. I'm actually seeing that play out and unfold. And
Yeah.
and I think that's pretty amazing. And it's like just all the little things really do add up to those big things.
They do.
But I've been, yeah, that's really what it is. It's like, I'm so passionate about my career and what I do for work that it's more than just a job, and it's more, working in the beauty industry or the film industry. It's all about passion and loving it. So I'm really learning to embrace that. And again, it kind of goes back to just not trying to control everything that happens in life and letting some things unfold, but
Yeah.
setting micro goals every single morning has only led to success for me.
Hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think those little things that, like you were saying, are actually more important than setting broad sweeping goals or ideas or big things, you know. It's just to set the little ones. And
Yep.
then and then those little ones all unfold and turn into a larger picture.
Yep. I love it. Reminds me of the 12-week year. This book that I read. It's like, writing down all of the things that lead up to the goal and just taking it step by
Yeah.
step every day. And then by the time you look
Yeah.
up, you reach the milestone.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. I know that one too. And I mean, I feel like it's only worked for the positive for me. So
Yeah. I love that for you. Okay. So the last one for the icebreakers, if you weren't, well, you love your job so much, but if you weren't a hair department head, hairstylist, is there anything else you could see yourself doing?
outside of this in general,
Yeah, outside of the beauty
no,
industry.
no,
Really?
never. No. This is exactly where I've been meant to be my entire life.
I love it.
Yeah. There's nothing else that I would ever want to put on the table. Um, yeah, this is it. This is the
No,
only,
no other passionate endeavors or nothing?
no, honestly, I have such a lifelong passion for film and for movies. It's literally been my aspirational goal since I was 5 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And I've pursued every single minute of every single part of my life pursuing it.
Okay, well take us to 5-year-old Blake. What was 5-year-old Blake dreaming of? Like actually doing hair or just working in the film industry?
It was film industry. So I remember this is an adorable story because when the grown-ups would ask what I wanted to do when I grow up, right? I would say I wanted to be Steven Spielberg.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want not that I wanted to be a director. I actually physically wanted to be Steven Spielberg, and I think it was probably because I just seen Jurassic Park at that time. Not to age
Okay.
myself,
Mhm.
but and I remember that day, the times very clearly. Like that was exactly what I wanted, and I pursued that as much as possible by doing theater when I was a kid, and when I got a little bit older, I ended up. Um, Falling in love with hair because it was my partner at the time. We were young, about 18. He was a hairdresser, and I saw something in that was a creative outlet that it spoke to me so strongly. And it wasn't until after I started to pursue that I realized that it can also translate into this industry.
Right.
They don't really teach you that in hair school. They don't really.
It's
It's
about
not.
customers and clients and yeah.
That's right, exactly, and product sales and those things. So it's training you to work in the salon. And as soon as I started in hair school, I kind of knew I learned that this industry existed. So from day one, I was pursuing this side of the business. I didn't know if anything would ever come of it, but I took every opportunity I could, every free gig I could find,
Mm-hmm.
and it pushed me there. So I'm definitely passionate about beauty and aesthetics and art and hair design and fashion and costumes. And I'm so involved with as many of all of the departments that come together.
Mm-hmm.
um it was a wonderful experience, because you can want to pursue this industry and it can fail miserably, but I figured, hey, I have this skill, I want to pursue that. If that doesn't work, there's the salon, there's those that I can still be successful.
Yeah.
And it just so happened everything kind of fell into this place.
It really did. Is there a different skill that's required from, or have you ever worked in a salon at all?
Yes, yeah, I
Okay.
have.
Is
Yeah.
there like a different type of hand that you have to have or skill level to work in a salon versus working on set?
Oh, that is a loaded question, and it is a yes. It is
Okay.
absolutely a yes. You know, there is such a level of skill that we need, a broad spectrum that we have to cover working in this business. We have to not only am I doing contemporary and modern beauty looks on cast and actors for certain shows, but I'm also doing historical and period pieces and
Hmm.
dramas. I'm doing fantasy and sci-fi.
Yeah.
And in the fantasy and sci-fi area, you have to be able to dream up and create wigs out of materials you wouldn't necessarily use, work with silhouettes that aren't your average silhouette, and structures, and doing period pieces. You have to recreate historical actual hair designs that are already exist, and you have to understand how those were achieved to be able to recreate them. So
Right.
having a deep understanding of history world history, different cultures, even. I've done shows that were set in the ancient Chinese empires and in 17th century England and in the Bronx, New York in 1970s. Like,
Right.
you have to have not only the ability to research those things, but to actually execute them. And the research involves, well, how did they achieve these looks? How was hair cut in the 1960s versus how it was cut today?
Wow.
You have to do a different haircut to achieve the looks that these people would have had in that time, because it's all about silhouette with hair and with costumes. And just like the costumer has to construct the garments to match the silhouette of that era, we also have
Mhm.
to construct the hair and wigs to match that silhouette. So
Wow.
the separation is vast.
Yeah.
We're not just cutting and coloring hair in the trailer. It's probably the last thing we kind of usually do.
Hmm.
It's a broad understanding of historical and period hair design from all corners of the world and all places in history, taking me
Yeah.
back all the way to ancient Egypt and the Mesopotamians and ancient Rome and ancient Greece. How
Right.
did women do their hair in ancient Rome? We have to look at statues, marble statues, because there's not many paintings from those eras. To look at ancient Egyptian stuff, it's again the hieroglyphics, and how do we, what does that very undetailed two-dimensional image, how do we pull as much information out of that to recreate that in reality and in real
Wow.
life and in film? So yeah, it's a broad selection of skills that we have to do.
Yeah.
Even
Fascinating.
understanding period hair, like finger waves and roller sets, and taking you back to the foundation of hairdressing. A
Yeah.
lot of hair, we learn a lot of those foundational basics in dressing hair: roller setting, perming,
Yeah.
waving hair, sculpting hair, from the period. Like in hair school, we learn some of those things, but those skills are immediately put on the back burner when people move into the salon and begin to do contemporary looks.
Right. Right.
So we take it back to the foundation of hairdressing, and we utilize those skills every single day.
I think it's so fascinating. Anytime I talk to people who work in like film and TV, it's like it's just so much that goes into the job that us as the viewer don't even realize. We're just enjoying the show and for entertainment purposes, but the work
Yeah.
behind the scenes is where it's really
Ooh.
the work behind it. So now you're leading the hair department for Amazon Prime's Overcompensating. How did you come about being the department head on this series?
Yeah, this was I had received the script for the pilot,
Hmm.
and I had got the producers had reached out to me, and I was referred by a friend in LA who is a hair designer in LA. I'm in Toronto, in Canada,
Okay. Okay.
and which is where we shot the show. And because we're jurisdiction with our union is local, so we usually have to work within the city limits, like in LA or in Toronto or New York or Vancouver or wherever.
Uh-huh.
So they knew a hair person there who I knew, were good friends from way back in our indie film days, because she's also from here. She put me forward to Benny, Benito Skinner,
Hmm.
who plays Benny in the show, and he's the showrunner and creator, brilliant genius. Um, she put me forward to him, and the producers reached out and they sent me episode one. Um, I read episode one, and the opening line in the first, because I'll read scripts, and
Yeah.
like, hey, I'll take a show, like, I'm not gonna discriminate, like, you know, but I read this script, and the opening line in the top of the script said, Benny wakes up in the morning to Britney Spears' Lucky playing in the background. And I immediately understood the assignment of this show. I knew where it was coming from. I knew
Okay.
the idea. I knew the aesthetic. Something is, and that's how it is. Something as simple as one line in the script
Hmm.
can dictate the entire aesthetic and overall feel of the entire series.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and I'm like, that all of a sudden I was 14 years old in my bed listening to Britney Spears' Lucky
Yeah.
in the closet, just like Benny. I knew it was happening. And I got so excited, and I read the script, and I just laughed out loud on every page turn. And it was only the pilot, and I was like, give me the rest.
Yeah, yeah. Like, what was it about the script that excited you so much? Like,
I
after you went through it, and like, how did you see the hair, like, telling the
well,
story within that?
Well, I mean, so as soon as that opening line about Britney Spears, the story begins to start to tell Carmen's story. And the scene was unfortunately cut from the final edit. But initially, we had a scene where Carmen is in her room following along to a hair and makeup tutorial by a 13-year-old girl on YouTube. And she's trying to curl her own hair and burns her hair off.
We've seen that time
And
and time again.
that's right. So I said, okay, well, there's a challenge because there's a lot of logistics in figuring out how we're going to shoot a scene like that.
Right.
And I saw that and I said, okay, this is a hair centric show. I knew that right away. And and Benny began to, as the script went on, hair was mentioned. Hair was a big part of Carmen and her story arc. And that was all laid out right from the top.
Okay.
So, and I said, well, this is the show that I want. These are the challenges that I want. And if the first scene in the show is a hair gag where she's burning her hair off, I said, I want to meet that challenge.
Yeah.
I want to figure out the logistics of how we're going to execute that on camera.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. How did you go about executing that on camera?
Oh, well, because in film we have to do each scene multiple times, right? Each take, each angle, each setup, we have to do multiple times. So we're obviously not burning her hair off. And so what I ended up doing was I had bought a series of hair extensions, just wefted hair on tracks that matched her texture. And I knew it would have to be a synthetic hair because real hair isn't like it had to go off without a hitch, right? We couldn't wait for the hair to burn it. It was actually timed as well. So as she's following the YouTube tutorial, the dialogue of the tutorial, so it's like 3, 2, 1, the hair burns off. So I bought a series of hair extensions, all different brands of synthetic pieces that looked as real as possible. And I bought expensive ones, I bought cheap ones, I bought simple ones, I bought, all the different ones. And I took 5 or 6 different flat irons and because using a flat iron, not a curling iron. So I had 5 or 6 different flat irons and I tested each one of them at different heat levels of how long it's going to take. Wow. It was about 3 seconds we had for the iron to touch the hair and burn the hair off.
Yeah.
And it had to do it every take, every setup. And so we experimented, I laid them out and I put labels, I timed them, and I put the different irons to different heat, and none of them was working. None of them. Over and over and over again. We were trying every single time, over and over and over. And so finally, my assistant had a flat iron that she's like, I can't use this because it gets so hot. Let's try this one.
Okay.
And I touched it, 1, 2, 3, the hair melted right away.
Nice.
So we sent her out. She bought that brand of synthetic hair. We got that brand, and every take, I had about a small section this big. We would clip it in the back. She was doing her hair in the scene, 3, 2, 1, and the hair would melt off.
Wow.
And we had to do that every setup, every angle. So we needed probably about 15 different pieces to reset. And every time it would melt, we would take the piece out, reset another one. So it just looked on camera, it was flawless. I'm sad it didn't make it into the show, though.
I know. You need to get that footage from them. You need to see.
I know. I think I might have it somewhere, actually.
That's really cool. Everything that goes into it. Like, just like you said, we just never know what goes on behind the scenes to create the final project. Like, that's dedication on y'all's part.
Yeah. And if you're doing it right, nobody should really know, So it's all about that illusion, and we're constantly creating an illusion. And if we can make it look as simple and easy, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done, then I've done my job.
Yeah, for sure. As a department head, what's it like when it's time to build the team that can style a diverse cast? Because you have a pretty diverse cast on this show. So what's it like building that team that can style different textures and all of that?
Well, number one, right off the top, for me, it is very important to have people who have experience in different hair textures. And I want to have representation in my trailer. So I'm always make sure that my team can, number one, execute the looks that are needed, and that the cast in the trailer feels that they are also being represented and having people who understand their hair textures and their hair types.
Yeah.
So I will crew my team to cater towards those things. If it's a show with a lot of wigs, I make sure that I have wig people who understand wigs, who know wigs, who can build wigs,
Yeah.
and then if we have a lot of people of color, I'll have people who understand Afro kinky hair and textures. And I really want to make sure to bring that together. And it's so much so as I will have a barber on my team who will cater to the boys who want a very specific barber style look.
Yeah.
And so I'll make sure to have those people. And it's all about just catering to the cast and the ability to execute what is needed on camera. So my team, the people I always work with, are so incredibly talented. My key, Chanel Burgundy, was absolutely phenomenal. She's a braider. She's an extension expert. She knows her shit, if I can say that.
Yeah.
And I was able to, and I learned so much too from my team, and that's really important for me as well. So it was wonderful to have that because everything was taken care of. Everything was covered. I didn't need to worry that they couldn't meet the challenge, whatever that challenge was thrown at them.
Yeah.
And so building the team, it's always show specific. But when you have a great team that is well versed in all of the challenges in hair and stuff, cutting, coloring, wigs, braiding, texture, all the things,
Right.
you can't go wrong. And sometimes they make the adjustments depending on the show and the cast and what's needed. But for the most part, my team is very, very qualified to meet those challenges, and I'm very fortunate because it can be hard to find those people, and I'm very thankful for them. And I love Chanel and Anne Marie, and it was just an absolute pleasure to have them on that show. And they were so passionate about the show too, and they loved the show, and they loved the characters, and they loved the script, and they want it to do the best. They want it to meet, and that's for me, because you can't make people care, right? You can show them how to do a thing, you can teach them, but you can't make people care. And having my team care so much about what we were doing was just, it really translated into the final product. And I'm just so proud of it. And I'm so proud of my team. And I absolutely love them. Chanel and Anne Marie, I love you guys so much.
Oh, shout out to the team.
Yes.
What kind of department head are you? Are you bossy? Are you like organized and like you got everything got to be in place, running around crazy? What kind of department head are you?
Yes.
All of the above.
First and foremost, I want to foster creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe creativity can bloom and blossom when it's under a strict gun.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually just chatting with my team earlier today about this, where, if the department head makes you feel like everything you do is wrong, then everything you do is going to be wrong.
Mm. Yeah.
And I've seen that happen so many times.
Wow.
Where all of a sudden they don't know what move to make because they think every move is going to be the wrong move.
Right.
And when you operate like that, every move you do make ends up being the wrong move.
Mm-hmm.
But I found if I can foster creativity and allow them to be who they are while still falling within the guidelines of the show's aesthetic and what is needed, I find that if I can bring out their them feeling good about what they're doing, they will only do better.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, that's really important. And organization in this business is key. I'm not perfect at it. I'm not terrible at it, but I think, we're always working to find the best way to organize our shows. And again, for me, first and foremost, what appears on the camera is top priority.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not meticulously cleaning the thing or organizing the continuity perfectly, as long as what looks on camera looks how it's supposed to look, I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the end, that final edit that goes out into the world is all that matters.
Right. They're shooting with these high quality cameras now, higher than 4K. I thought 4K was like the highest. Now I don't even know what they're up to now. 8K.
Yeah, they're like 15. Yeah. I don't know. We're going to see right through people soon enough.
See people's heartbeats.
Yeah, exactly. They'll be right in the room with us.
Yeah, you can see their thoughts and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm glad you have such a tight team that has everything together. Like I know now, well, I read that Carmen's character in particular, even though we didn't see her burn her hair off, I saw that she goes from like a sleek style to like her natural curls, and that was like a big moment in the show. How did you and the team decide like what hairstyle would reflect her like emotional growth? How do you match hair to emotion?
Well, this is this comes down to the actual point and purpose, and the title of our show is
Mm-hmm.
Overcompensating. So
Mm-hmm.
if you notice, when you watch the show and Carmen arrives at school, she has her natural texture and it's beautiful. And I didn't want to create that texture with any forced texture. I wanted to create it with as much natural texture as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of products, a little bit of frizzle, a little bit of frazzleness, a long, full, thick, heavy, just like a lot of hair. And when she arrives at school, when she looks around her, nobody looks like that.
Yeah.
She meets she meets Haley, and Haley has curls, but they're very polished and very intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Every single curl on Haley's head is intentional. And she clocks that too.
Yeah.
And the more she looks around, the more she sees everybody. And if you look, you can see, even in the background, people have flat ironed, straight, smoothed hair.
Mm-hmm.
And it was to other Carmen. It was so she felt othered, because
Yeah.
when you're in school and when you're starting in a new job and you're young, a new school, a new environment, you always feel othered. We all do, and we've
Mm-hmm.
all felt that in life too, right? And even though who we are is perfectly fine and beautiful, when you feel othered, you don't feel like you are accepted.
Yeah.
And
Not
that's the
belong.
whole, and that is the whole entire purpose of the show. So it wasn't to make her hair look crazy and wild. It was to this is just who she is. This is her natural textures. So we enhanced those textures in her hair, and I diffused it, and we brought it out without, but still making it look natural. And then she immediately learns that she needs to find a way to fit in,
Mm-hmm.
and straightening her hair is that way of doing that. In her eyes, that's what she thinks looks pretty.
Yeah.
And so she jumps onto that bandwagon. There's a line in the script that said Carmen enters with her hair, yes, and with it pulled back into a ponytail within an inch of its life. you know and so we wanted to execute that. And so this is her overcompensating. she's
Mm-hmm.
she's following in Haley and her clone's footsteps. If Haley always has a different gaggle of girls around her at all times, and they're interchangeable. It doesn't matter who they are. They're just people around her, which I always find hilarious. Her Haley's friends are just whoever
Which is
she
so
wants to
strange in
collect.
college. I'm like, people are doing this in college. I was just going to class. I wasn't no clique or anything like that.
Yeah, same. Yeah, same. But this is, and it is a reality for a lot of people. And so she began to try and fit into that mold as much as
Mm-hmm.
she could. And for her, with the boobs and the push-ups and the tube tops and trying to do the makeup looks and trying to fit in. Maybe it was a little too much makeup. Maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe her hair was just frying her hair by flat ironing it every day within an
Right.
inch of its life. But she didn't care. It was
Mm-hmm.
all about fitting in and all about overcompensating for who she really was.
Right.
And when you see that the story progresses, once we get into the later episodes and she kind of learns that who Peter is, who he is, and she sees that and he shows it to her blatant and plain as day that he doesn't give an F about her.
Yes.
It's when she takes off that mask and
Mm-hmm.
and then you see her hair, she embraces her hair. And
Yeah.
we see that she is more beautiful with her natural hair than she would have ever been trying to fit in and become somebody else.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
again, it's all about her intent, right? Because we can wear our hair however we want. We can change it into any looks, and that's totally fine. But it was the intent behind it,
Right.
and that was where it was. It wasn't because she wanted to be versatile and try different looks and feel beautiful. It was because she felt that her curls were unattractive and straight hair was attractive.
Right.
And in the end, as she begins to shed those layers, her and the audience, we realize that no, it's not. It's whoever you are, that you embrace who you are, and whether it's your look or your heart or who you are or your clothes or your hair or your makeup. It's all about embracing it and finding and doing it for you, not for
Yeah,
anybody else.
I agree.
And yeah, and that's always been so important to me too, because I love fashion and I love clothes. I might have a different look every single day. You're
Mhm.
gonna be, I've just bleached out my hair a few days ago. It's still a work in progress, but like, I'm probably gonna have a purple hair next week, or I'm wearing something completely different, and I embrace all of those. I'm not trying to do it to fit in with anybody or to make others accept me. And that was really the point for all of our characters in the show. Mary Beth, who plays Grace, Benny, of course,
Mhm.
Carmen, and the way I've always been translated and interpret the script was, especially for Haley's character, who is just so amazing and played by the brilliant improv comic Holmes, who this is that character who does know who they are,
Mhm.
whether it's who, and they don't care. They
Right.
are, she is the bimbo. She's house bunny. She's legally blonde. She's this is the world that she lives in. And that's how I always interpret her character, because that's why with everybody else goes through these looks changes, but Hilly, it really does stay the same. Because when I look at the divas in the world, and the people that I've admired, people like Dolly Parton, people like Tina Turner or Diana Ross, or
Yeah.
they have a signature look.
If I say it's very consistent. Yeah.
It's very consistent. It might change for the times and
Mhm.
what's it, but they have a recognizable look. So that was really important for me to bring to Haley, is that she has a very iconic, distinct look that she has embraced and owns, and only does this look. So that was kind of a little bit of the design behind that character. But have I gone on too long about this character?
No, I love how
Okay.
passionate you are. And when you were talking, I was thinking about code switching. We always hear about code switching when it
Mm,
comes to the way that you speak or the way that you act in an environment, but I never really attributed it to like the way you wear your hair or the way you like might dress. You might be code switching in those areas too, based off of the people that are around you. And that seemed like what she was doing in that instance of just seeing how everybody else looking, just wanted to, blend in a sense. Like
yep,
that.
because she had to hide that past. She didn't want to be
Mhm.
that person, and she thought that in order how people to accept her was to conform. And I mean, yeah, I understand code switching, queer,
Mhm.
small town, East Coast.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to do it every single day of my life.
Hmm.
And Benny does too. You see that even in the opening scene when he's in the mirror and
Yeah.
he's trying to find that straight acting voice, that voice that's going to not set him apart, that's going to
Mhm.
blend him in with the rest of these, you know,
Yeah, even with
outrageous.
even with his hair, like how do you approach the minimalistic styling with his look for him not to be able to stand out and be looked at like, hey, wait, what's going
Yeah,
on over there?
yeah, that was a long conversation. And that was a big part of it for Benny's character, was that his hair didn't other him.
Mm-hmm.
He had to look effortless. He had, if you look at the boys and the jocks and the F&G boys, they're not waking up in the morning and spending the time on their hair. This isn't that world.
Yeah.
These aren't those people. So it was really important for Benny not to for his hair to not look freshly cut. He's not hitting the barber shop every week, every Friday.
Yeah.
He's not, nothing looks intentionally styled. There's nothing polished about it. We just wanted it to look consistent. So there was nothing that would other him,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really the most important part for his character and his look, was to keep it as low key as possible.
Wow.
So even the length we chose for the sides and stuff didn't look intentionally barbered and trimmed or clippered, or it wasn't perfectly lined up. Everything was meant to make him fade into this world that he was so desperately trying to fit into. So that was where we had to take him, and yeah, yeah.
Wow. To your knowledge, are people that intentional sometimes with like not trying to stand out in that way with like how they do their hair and how they dress?
Well, I spent most of my career working with actors, so they do what they need to do. They do what we need them to do. But I know for Benny, this is a story of his partially autobiographical.
Got you.
So this was a part of his life as well.
Wow.
And yeah, absolutely, I find that. you know, or you would overstyle yourself like Carmen does to fit in as well. You know,
Mhm.
it's all about where your culture is, who the people around you, that the subcultures you're a part of, the communities. You know, we all do it every single day, whether we even realize it or not.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes it's not even a bad thing. It doesn't matter. It's fine. But we're always trying to, you know, we look at the people around us, and whether it's on Instagram or TikTok, whether it's in real life, whether it's in school, whether it's your culture, where you're from, we're always looking around us and we're being influenced by the aesthetics we see around us, no matter whether it's conscious or not. You know,
Right. Right.
every single thing that we do is never actually our own individual decision aesthetically. The fashion
Hmm.
industry is telling us what to wear, whether we know it or not. The hair and beauty industry is telling us what brands to buy, for what shade of lipstick to wear, how to do our hair. We're constantly seeing it presented to us, and we're constantly trying to fit into that. And sometimes, ironically, the more we try and fit outside of all of that, the more we actually fall into it. And you know, it's like, I'm as much as we want to be an individual, or as much as we want to blend in, you know, it can sometimes have the opposite effect. But we're constantly aesthetically being influenced, you know, whether we know it or not, because it exists,
Yeah.
right? Everything we've done, we wear, everything we make up, clothes, it exists. So if it
Mhm.
exists, then you're always being influenced. You're being influenced by an outside influence. And when you're young, that's only 100 times more amplified.
I'm telling you, right? Young and impressionable.
Yep, been there.
What do you think my hairstyle says about where I am in life?
I think your hair is absolutely gorgeous.
Thank
No,
you.
turn. Let me see. Is it? Oh, yes.
I
Where are
do it
you
myself.
from?
I'm from DC.
Okay, so that's amazing. So I noticed that DC, especially black hair in DC, has its own distinct kind looks and aesthetics that separate it from other places. And
Really?
I also noticed that it also has that there's trends that start in DC that
Mm.
end up going into the rest of the community and the rest of the world. I've seen it, and I say this because when I worked on a show that was set in DC, and
Mhm.
we had to do a lot of research, and I noticed that there was a certain type of locks that girls were doing in DC,
Mhm.
that they're kind of pulled apart a little bit. The name is slipping
Like
my
the
mind.
boho, is it like boho or something?
Yes, exactly. Like this was, and that I didn't see outside of there when we were, you know, especially here in Toronto, we have a really large Caribbean culture here. We have, you know, hair and braiding and stuff. We also have kind of our own distinct looks that translate from Caribbean culture to Toronto specific Jamaican. And
Hmm.
I noticed that in DC there was things that I would see that now I'm seeing translating and coming into
Trendsetters.
the mainstream more so.
Okay.
So yeah, no, DC has some things going on. They're doing some hair things.
Some trends. Because
I'm
I was
feeling
just
it.
telling someone, I feel like people are starting to look the same. Like back in the
Yeah.
day, you used to know where people were from based off of how they wore their hair. Like
Yep.
Detroit was like big for the hair and Atlanta, but I feel like everybody's kind of looking the same now.
Yeah, well, we know who to thank for that. You know, TikTok has the social media has completely changed everything. There's no individuality anymore. Everything is just self-aware expressionism.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about conformity. I mean, every single boy I see has the same haircut from TikTok.
Yep.
And you know, you can't not have that hair. They got to have that haircut. You know, it's that wolf cut, that fluffy fringe, that shaggy. I mean, the boys are getting perms now, you
Oh
know.
my gosh.
I know, it's crazy. So it's really nice when you do find those things.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it is really nice when you look around and maybe you see somebody who's not doing it, who's doing something a little bit differently. Because, you know, when you watch movies and stuff from the 1980s, the 1990s, you're not going to see the same look twice, especially when you look at the background performers. And, you know, you're going to see a lot of, like, the 80s looked like the 80s, but no two people look the same in the 80s.
Right.
You
Huh.
know, and it's interesting. And now you kind of have this mass conformity of, because everybody's on the same social media feed, they're all getting fed the same things, and then that thing changes in 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks later it changes again, and everybody kind of jumps on board with it all. And
I
you
say it's like
know,
the Emerald City. It's like going to Oz and they change it from green, then it's yellow, then it's red. It's like the Emerald City is always
yep,
changing.
yep. But yet it's all kind of the same.
Right. It comes back
So,
around.
yep, it does.
Mm-hmm. When you're working on set, or on a project, how do you go about collaborating with the directors, makeup, costume, and then making sure everything is cohesive and aligns for the bigger vision of the project? Are you all doing like fittings and
Oh yeah. Oh
like
yeah, yeah. That
okay.
is that. I think that's we start with the director. Well, on a feature film, we start with the director. On in television, we start with the showrunner. And the showrunner is in television is what a director is in film. So in television, the director often will direct the actors' performances, but the showrunner will design the aesthetic and the look of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's who we first and foremost will collaborate with. And I always sit down we have our meetings. You know, there'll be a costume meeting and then there'll be a hair and makeup meeting. And from those two meetings, I often and then a camera meeting and a props meeting and all those they all kind of happen separately, but we have our meeting and then costumes will have their meeting, and then we marry those two, the ideas that we all came up with in those meetings together. And so sitting down with the costume designer is and the makeup artist is usually my first priority. So I can, especially costumes, because they're designing, they create the look and feel of the whole show and all the characters,
Mm-hmm.
the background, everybody. So I can automatically have a starting point with costumes, because hair and costumes are both very much all about the silhouette, so and makeup will work with the colors and in within the costumes and stuff, things that flatter skin tones. But for me, first and foremost, it's about the silhouettes.
Yeah.
So I really jump on board with the costume designer right away. And those silhouettes are the most important factor. But meeting with the showrunner is to get that feel, to know what they're looking for, and it all depends. It's all different. If it's a historical or period piece, how historical do they want, how historically accurate do they want to go? Do they want a
Mm-hmm.
little room for leniency? Sometimes they don't want sometimes the main cast will be a little bit more on the contemporary side, but hinting towards the period looks for their hair and makeup. Sometimes it's an exact replica, so we have to look at actually, like I did a show set in the 1300s in the
Uh-huh.
early settlers, and so we had to find, and the director wanted them to look exactly like people looked in that time,
Right.
which is really hard research
I'm
to
like, how
do.
did they look at that time?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of bonnets.
No hot tools or anything.
Yeah, no, no, nothing like that. Exactly. And that's the other thing. Like, how did they achieve those looks?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did the ancient Romans put their hair up? Like, what did
Like
they
what were
use
they
to
using to pin it and like yeah.
exactly? And it's called a bone needle. And they would basically have a long needle made of bone with a piece of thread or yarn that matches their hair, and they would sew their hair with this piece of yarn into the updo. And you can still see that technique is used today, even still, in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of ways. So it's interesting, when you go back that far, how you begin to really see what some of those techniques that may look really ancient are actually still pretty modern.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where we start. We always have to get on the same creative vibe. We present mood board once the directors and the showrunners kind of give us that feel and tell us what they're looking for and describe things. Then we start putting together mood boards and collaborating on finding looks and pulling looks from paintings or from museums and statues and libraries and the internet and wherever, to whatever we can do to kind of bring all of those looks together. So when I'm seeing the costumes, I can start creating looks that would accommodate that. Where is the film being shot? Where is it being? Where's the setting of the film? Is it in Seattle? Is it in Ireland? Is it
Right.
in Manchester or a suburb of New York or a small community in Brazil? It all is so important because to represent those niche things, like you were just saying earlier, like if we have where people, it was so specific, you could find individuality in different communities, every neighborhood you would go to, like
Mm-hmm.
the Bronx didn't look like Brooklyn, and Manhattan didn't look like Washington Heights, and even just neighborhoods within a city had their own aesthetics and their own culture things, hair and makeup and clothing looks that have been passed on or developed solely within that community. So when we're designing for film, we're often looking towards those things,
Wow.
And yeah,
Wow.
it's
So
quite expensive.
I know you mentioned the union earlier. Do you get to travel a lot with the work that you do or do you have to only stay in Toronto or Canada?
No, we as a department head, we definitely have the option to travel. Like if I'm on a show like I'm not necessarily going to get hired on a show like that's shooting in in Africa or in Australia. I could, but if the show is shooting here and we have scenes that we set, so we will in those countries. One time years ago, we had scenes on a show that I did called Jupiter's Legacy for Netflix, and I wasn't the head of department. I was just a part of an amazing team on that one, and we had the option to travel to Fiji to shoot some of the scenes.
Ooh.
So yeah, there's always those opportunities. Yeah, it's always there. Yeah. Some really cool stuff. Sometimes we'll go to Mexico on a show I did a couple of years ago. We went to Mexico. Yeah, there's always that little bit of opportunity, but I gotta tell you, I'm a homebody. So if I get a nice cozy show that's all set in Toronto, I'm usually happy to do that too.
Oh my, I love to travel, so I would just be all for it. Like, fly me out. Where we going? Where's this show shooting?
Well, I'll tell you, if we're going to shoot in Mexico, we're going for a reason, and it's usually the jungle.
Oh,
Yeah, we're not
not
going
glamorous.
no, exactly. Maybe if we're going to Rome or Venice or
Yeah.
like sure, but usually if we're going to like, I have a friend who's on a show right now who's going to South Africa, and you can guarantee they're going to shoot in South Africa, and it's the jungles and
And the
it's
shanty towns and
that's
the
right.
meadows.
Yep, exactly. So sometimes it can be not so glamorous when we're working abroad like that.
Yeah.
But the experience is amazing. I mean, but some things you just can never prepare for. Like, I don't know what kind of insects are going to bite me in the jungle, and we have meetings about those things, so
Oh wow.
it's yeah, but it can be pretty awesome too. Like sometimes we'll have to shoot on a ship out in the ocean, and we're on a boat for a week,
Ooh.
out in
Okay.
the ocean, and it's not a cruise ship.
Right.
I'll tell you that much. So there's good and bad for sure.
Okay.
And it's all amazing experience though.
Yeah, it sounds like it. How do you personally stay inspired and like just creatively fueled between the projects? Yeah. I got another question that just popped up in my head, but I'll let you answer that one too.
Oh, I mean, I always have to find something. I always have to find something that inspires me, because I'm very much creatively driven, and I'm very much driven by my inspiration and by creativity. So, I'm not necessarily going to take a hospital show, maybe not, or a legal drama,
Yeah.
but if I do, I'm going to look for what inspires me about that, and I often get inspired by the villains. And I'm like, if we got a good villain, I can do any show.
Okay.
Give me a good villain and I can be creatively inspired. I mean, but the passion of creating looks for to be on screen and in television is the passion enough that I need. It's not all going to be big amazing fantasy shows and Game of Thrones, or it's not all going to be that, but there's always has to be something to creatively inspire, and I can usually do a pretty good job at finding that.
Yeah. Do you still take clients? Like regular
No.
clients?
Oh God, no. No, I had to say that right off the table right away.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that I did, because I tried to hang on to that for a little bit, and again, it's that juggling act. Like, the clients aren't I'm not getting the paycheck from the clients that I'm getting from these people. And it's a time management thing too. This business takes up our days, 12, 14, 18-hour days, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
If we're starting at 5 a.m. on Monday, we're starting at 4 p.m. on Friday and finishing at 6, 7, 8 a.m. Saturday morning.
Oh my
which
God.
gives us very little time to sleep and go back to work to start work at 3 a.m. on Monday morning.
Yeah.
So, it's all about that time management.
Do you feel like you have enough time in between projects to like process what you just did, like to really sit in and like yeah, like really process the work that you did or love the show before you move on to the next thing?
Sometimes, and sometimes no. Yeah,
Hmm.
sometimes we get a good little bit, I can get some good amount of time in, and that recovery portion. If I've had a long, busy year, I really try and take 2 to 3 months off. If I can do that once a year, then that's a physical, emotional, mental reset.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to do it. But sometimes, like, I'm prepping for one show and then and while I'm on another show and then going right in. Sometimes the hair and makeup trailer will just move right from this show to the next show. Like,
Yeah.
so it can be very busy. Um, but anytime I get to take that little bit of downtime in between, because even if I have 3 months off, 2 of those months are spent prepping for the next show.
Right.
So as soon as that prep starts, the brain goes back into work mode. So it's all
Hmm.
about trying to find that reset, and people who work their 9 to 5 jobs, it's like, oh, what a luxury. You get 3 months off. But yeah, no, we put a lot in when we're here, and a lot of physical, mental, emotional energy into work. And I think it's so important to take those moments to recover because, we also can't live our lives, doctor's appointments, family meetings, children, or, birthdays and graduations, and all that gets put to the side, and we miss it. All of a sudden, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years have passed, and you've missed all of those milestones.
Yeah.
So taking that time is really important for me. And when I do get to self-reflect and reflect on the projects like we're doing right now,
Hmm.
I think that's really only uh, I absolutely love it and I cherish it so much. And I'm so thankful that even now we get to look back and reminisce about overcompensating, and probably one of my favorite projects I've ever gotten to be a part of. And it's so special and so important to me. And these moments really make that worth it.
Yeah, I love it. How do you personally, or what's your favorite thing to do to kind of reset?
Sleep. Oh, sleep, 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 mama. Oh, mama, I sleep. Oh,
Love me a nap.
oh my gosh, yes. I will literally just not even move off of my sofa for 2 weeks.
Hmm.
Um, and then I usually find I love to home decor, and I love to remodel my house. Refurnish my whole house once a year when I'm finished a show. I won't have the same sofa as the last time you visited me. And I find that so therapeutic.
Hmm.
I love painting the house. I love gardening. I love being at home with my cat and my partner. And, those are the really, really important moments. And then taking the time to see friends and stuff. But the recovery portion for me personally is isolation and solitude,
Mm.
because I am on all the time, right?
Yeah.
Always on. I'm always go, 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 pleasing people, smiling, working with people,
It's
making a hundred
exhausting.
thousand decisions all day long for 18 hours a day. It is. So as soon as I'm off, I love that isolation moment for a week or two, to just completely reset,
Hmm.
and then slowly climb my way back into the real world.
Yeah, I feel like I used to be able to socialize with the best of them. I love meeting people. I love connecting. But as I've gotten older, it makes me sad because I come home drained and I don't like it because
Yeah.
I like being around people, but just like mentally, I just can't. My body is like, girl, you need to stay in the house for like 3 days now after an event. It's crazy. I can't
Yeah.
be out
But
and
it's important though, because then for me, that is so important because it recharges my battery to be able to do it again.
hmm.
Because if I have to keep doing it, then I'm not going to love it. Then I'm
Yeah.
not going to be excited to do it. I'm going to feel so energized, so drained that, so I actually now I look forward to those moments where I can isolate and take that time because I know it's recharging me for the next time that I'm going to be with my friends or be at work or, have a social function. And then I can put all of it into it.
Yeah.
So I've learned to embrace it.
Yeah. The tired, or I guess to sum up everything, have you ever had an experience in the industry where you felt like you were overcompensating to be seen or to
I
be
still feel
heard?
like I do it every day.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there's always this imposter syndrome, right?
Ah.
And it kind of I think Hollywood and the entertainment industry, I think it's a natural part of this business because every single day I'm faced with a completely new challenge. And
Mm.
whether I faced it or not, or it's a different version of a challenge I faced before, I'm always like, oh crap, is this in my wheelhouse? Like,
Mm-hmm.
who am I? Oh, crap. Well, okay, I guess I'll figure it out. Um, and then once obviously it starts getting underway, I'm like, oh, right, of course.
Got
This
this.
is why.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, definitely. I feel like there's always going to be a moment where it's like, am I qualified to do this? Who hired like who thought I was qualified for this job? But it's always works out. And so there always is that little bit of imposter syndrome for sure. And
Mm,
that fake it till you make it. And not that faking the skill set or
right.
faking it's about presenting a fake it, I'll fake it till I make it, as in like
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna present
And
a
convince
certain
yourself
way.
too. You got to
Exactly.
fake it to
No,
convince yourself. Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Uh-huh.
That's who I'm faking it till I make it to, me, nobody
Yeah,
else.
for sure.
And I think that leads to it being real and developing those skill sets, and it seems to have worked out so far.
Hmm.
So
Yes. Continue to say yes to everything.
that's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Have you thought about what you want your legacy to be with the work that you're doing in the industry?
No.
Yeah.
Should I?
Yes. Like, what do you want people to say about you? Like the contribution you made to their lives and the being a department head and how you made them feel. Like,
I just hope that I can just help. I want to, again, I want to foster creativity, and I want other artists to feel inspired, and I don't want other artists to feel. I don't want ever want someone to feel like I think that I'm jealous or have it, or any of us are.
mm,
I think it's so important. This can be such a cutthroat industry. It can be so competitive, and not only Hollywood and the film and television and celebrity and all that fosters it, but the salon industry does too. We're always fighting for the clients, fighting to look, for them, and to get those clients, to get that money, to put the other person down, and I never want to be portrayed like that. I want artists to feel inspired by other artists, and I
yeah.
want to inspire other artists, and I want to be inspired by other artists. And that to me is the most important aspect of this, is that I always want people to feel like I'm helping, when I'm in a position of leadership, that I'm helping them bring out the best in them. And because so many people want to tear people down and push them aside and climb over them
Mm,
to get to where they need to be. And it's the number one most important thing for me, that we
yeah.
don't do that. We're stronger together.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that. And creativity is inspiring, and it's inspired by everybody coming together. And that's really what I want everybody to be able to feel.
Yeah.
That's my mission and my goal. And yeah, that's very, very close to my heart, is that.
Yeah, I love it. Is there anything else that's coming up that you can share? Because I know y'all be signing like NDAs and like all that stuff.
Well, I just had Adults season 1 drop on FX
Okay.
network. And that is written by the brilliant Ben and Rebecca duo. It's a Gen Z sitcom of coming of age story about young adults living in New York City. It's hilarious, it's funny, it's witty, it's clever. And we have great guest stars. Julia Fox is on it,
Oh,
and
nice.
and Charlie Cox, and the list goes on. It's a fantastic show. The first 2 episodes are out right now on Disney Plus and on FX Network and on Hulu in America.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, check it out. It's a lot of fun.
Nice, nice. I gotta get up on my series. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I gotta start getting into all these different shows and stuff.
Well, that means you're on your hustle. That's why. So I same. I'm like, I might make them, but God knows I can't sit down for 5 minutes to
I
find the time to watch them.
I be trying my best not to get into a series, get sucked in. I'm like, I just need a movie. Let me just get through an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I'm done. But the series
Yeah.
be whew,
Yep, same.
caught up.
Adults and Overcompensating are great for that. They're a quick binge, 30-minute comedy episodes,
Okay.
which is my jam too. But yeah, I know I'm with you. A lot of my viewing is a good movie, and that I can maybe even pass out halfway through when I'm watching it.
Pick it up the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
That's
sure
right.
we're of a particular age. We can do
Yeah,
it.
that's right. Exactly. Oh, I also have Merry Little Xmas coming out on Christmas on Netflix, starring Alicia Silverstone and Melissa Joan Hart. It should be
Ooh.
a blast. It was a pleasure to make, and it was so much fun. So keep an eye out for that.
Alicia Silverstone. Oh my God.
Uh-huh. Cher Horowitz herself.
Love that. Okay, this is exciting. Okay, well, before I let you go, I have to ask you the Friends of Beauty rapid fire questions. So whatever
Okay,
comes to
let's
your
go.
mind, you can spit it out. If you need to elaborate, that's fine.
All right.
So the first one is what am I saying? What are the top three keys to your success so far?
Top three keys to my success. Um, Work well with people, be a pleasure, be a delight, be enjoyable, don't be difficult.
Mm,
This business, it is 20% skill and 80% personality. And I think
mm,
that can go for a lot, and that will get you far. Don't say yes to everything. If you want to
mm,
try and get up there and you want to do things, you're not too good for anything. There's
mm,
no if you get somebody wants you to make their shitty little student film shot on an iPhone for 3 days overnight in the woods in the worst conditions in a blizzard, say yes.
mm-hmm.
Do it. Every single time, do it.
Yep.
Was that three?
I think it was two. Yep.
Oh, and three, just hustle, 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 work, 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 work. Do it, do it. Produce, 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 produce. Make things all the time. Build, build, build. Create, 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 and
Mm,
the success will come.
awesome. How do you measure your success?
Very difficultly. Oh my gosh. I used to measure it by financial success. And once I was in a place where I was financially stable, I realized that it doesn't matter.
Mm,
Measure your success. I measure my success doing, by being able to have people in my life who care about me.
mm,
And so many people can put themselves into work or push those people away. And I don't think that's successful.
yeah.
Having people around me that I love and cherish and that I can continue to have these relationships with is the most successful part of my life.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Okay. What is the best advice you've ever received or a piece of advice that's like always stuck with you?
Oh, um, when I was the best advice I've ever received that stuck with me. I mean, oh, I was working with a not even in film. I was just doing her hair. She was a lady. I would go to her house to do her hair. We got connected by somebody, but she had used to work in the film industry and she worked for Quentin Tarantino.
Uh-huh.
And she told me that he would make the most ridiculous demands, the craziest out there and the on the spot things and she said the most important thing was just to say yes and figure the rest out. And she said, yep, copy that, got it. And she'd go in the back room, bawl her eyes out, have a panic attack, figure it out, come out, present it. The show would go on. And that has served me very, very, very well. And that was one
Mm,
of the first pieces of advice I ever got in this industry. And it was just her telling me stories.
yeah.
It wasn't even an advice, but that moment stuck with me. And I think it served me very well.
Nice, nice. What advice would you give to another department head right now who is just kind of struggling, with the job and they're like, maybe I should just go back to being a key and, you know.
Oh God, that's the age old question. I don't think there's a single one of us who don't struggle with that question, on the right, on a certain show and a certain time and a certain
Uh-huh.
experience. That is something that crosses all of our minds. But I will say, I think that I set out a 5-year plan when I joined our union and I joined this industry that I said, I'm going to key as much as I can, I'm going to key the biggest shows and the biggest productions that I can. And then I'll go on and start taking my own shows. And that really worked out. But every single day I question that, every time there's a challenge, it always crosses our mind. But to look back, I mean, for me, this is where I'm meant to be.
Hmm.
And I think we all know where we're meant to be deep down, whether we're questioning it or not, whether we feel it or not in the moment. But I'll feel like that again, but in this moment right now, this is where I'm meant to be. And it's where you're meant to be as well as a department head. And if you truly are meant to be there, you'll know that. And
Yeah.
I think it's, like I said, I just, stick with it. And, it can be hard and crazy sometimes, but the payoffs and the rewards can be far greater. And if this is meant for you, then this is where you need to be, whether you feel that in the moment or not.
Yeah, that too shall pass.
That's right.
What's a resource that helps you in what you do that you can share with the Friends of Beauty community?
My community. Yeah,
Mhm.
my community, the other hairdressers, other hair people in the film industry. It's that I rely on them more than any resource you could possibly find.
Yeah.
And again, it speaks to coming together, right, and in supporting each other. Because if I didn't have the other members of my union and the other hair department heads and keys and wig makers and the color technicians we use in the salons, if I didn't have them, I wouldn't have anything. And so
Mhm.
that's my resource is each other.
I love
And
it.
I utilize that every chance I can get.
I hear that. Leverage those relationships. So the last one is just a statement that I want you to repeat. Say, my name is blank, like Blake. My name is blank. And the key to longevity and success is blank. What do
Uh,
you think it is?
my name is Blake, and the key to longevity and success is just pushing through and doing it every day. Those small decisions, like we said in the beginning, those
Mm,
little tiny insignificant things that you do every day that you don't think matter more than any big decision you'll ever make.
mm.
And what was that saying? Don't sweat the small stuff because it's
Yeah,
all small stuff. It's true. All the little things equal the big things. And yeah.
I love it. I love it. Before you go, please share your social media. If you have a website, however you want people to continue to follow your journey and connect with you can share whatever you want.
Oh, you can find me on Blake Arsenault on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the other things. Yeah, I'm there. Blake Arsenault.
Yes. and
ARSENAULT.
I look forward to seeing your name in the credits.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. I'm so thankful we got to do this.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for your time. It was great chatting with you.
It was wonderful chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Friends in Beauty podcast. Don't forget, sharing is caring. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with another friend in beauty. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe, rate, and leave a 5-star review so that other friends in beauty can find the show. Plus, we'd love to hear your feedback. Connect with us on all social media platforms at Friends in Beauty, #Friends in Beauty to join the conversation, and join our Friends in Beauty Facebook community to stay connected. Talk to you soon.